Hey everyone, it's me, Allie, at Postpartum Mom channel. Welcome back if you've seen any of my other videos. If not, welcome, and I hope that you enjoy my content. The purpose of my channel is to talk about surrogacy, which involves caring a child for someone else. I also want to talk about foster parenting, adoption, and just the love of being a parent, and all things involving kids and babies. So today what I want to talk about is month number 1 of my surrogacy. So I want to talk about everything that happened that first month. So leading up to the transfer, the embryo transfer, I was told to take different medications. I was taking aspirin, a multivitamin. I was taking Lupron. I was also taking estrogen in the form of patches and in the form of by-mouth pills. And I was also taking progesterone injections in my glute muscle or my hip. And so I was taking several different medications, and of course they all caused different side effects or different symptoms. Some of them were okay, some of them not as pleasant. Just to let you know what the embryo transfer was like. So, okay, leading up to the transfer, I live in Gainesville, and I ended up having to travel to South Florida to have this procedure performed, which was fine because I actually have family in South Florida, and I don't mind the drive. So leading up to this, I prepared by eating really healthy, making sure I exercised. I wanted to make sure I had really good circulation going. You want to make sure that your body's in the best shape it can be before you carry a child. Sometimes you can do this easily, sometimes not so much. But it's really important to me. I feel like carrying a child is a spiritual journey as well. So if I'm going to be a vessel for somebody else's child, or if I'm going to be a babysitter, if I'm going to be a teacher, if I'm going to have any form or capacity or role in another individual's life, then I want to make sure I'm in the best shape mentally, physically, emotionally, right? The day before the transfer, I stopped taking Lupron, and or I think maybe even the morning of. Lupron is an itty bitty needle. You just literally just prick it into your belly. I don't even feel it half the time. I do like to make sure I numb it really well with the alcohol. And I am a nurse practitioner, so I'm used to giving these shots all the time. So I know how to do it quickly to make sure that it doesn't hurt. And of course, I sent up prayers and intentions. I pray about it. I made sure I visualized. I was positive going into it. I was not stressing out. Because I knew that either my body was going to accept the embryo or it wasn't, but it had nothing at all to do with me. I did everything I needed to do. I took all my medications as ordered. I was eating healthy. I was exercising. I was making sure that I was stress-free. So there was nothing else that I could do on my end. When I walked into the transfer room, I knew that I had done everything on my part that I needed to do. So I took this long drive down, right? And then, for some surrogates, it's like a tradition to have certain foods before or after the transfer. And so for me, I made it a point to drink a pineapple smoothie. When I got there was a really healthy place called JJ's Eatery or Bakery, something like that. It's right around the corner from the office I was using in Boca Raton. And they have fresh juices and fresh smoothies. So I went ahead and got a big pineapple smoothie, and I drank that, and they told me to drink a lot of water before I went in. So I had a gallon jug, and of course I didn't drink the whole gallon, but I had a gallon jug with me, and I made sure I started chugging that right before I went into the procedure. Okay, so when I walk into the door, I checked in with the receptionist, and in terms of the embryo transfer, it's very, very quick. So they have, they make the embryos, or they, they unite the egg and the sperm before you even get there. It's in the lab. They know what grade the embryo is, meaning they know how well or what the chances are of the embryo sticking, meaning for it to actually stay in your uterus and for it to be good quality, I should say. And so I went in there, I drank enough water, went back, they cleaned me up, and it was just like a normal appointment. They tell you undress from the bottom down. I put a drape over me. The doctor came in, his nurse came in. They had made sure they wiped me out with iodine. And of course, it's a little awkward because you have all these people in the room with you, but I think it's helpful for a surrogate because it makes it less of an emotional attachment. It's not like I was intimate with a man, to have this child in my stomach. It's not my stomach, my uterus, but you get what I'm saying, right? And so I think it helps with the mentality of being a surrogate that you have it's an unnatural feeling, an unnatural experience. It's a beautiful experience, but therefore it makes it a lot easier for you to be emotionally detached, because sometimes you'll even have to remind yourself that you're pregnant because you don't remember like how that came to be. All you knew at one point was that this embryo was placed in your uterus, in your womb, and then boom, you're pregnant a couple weeks later. So anyway, back to what I was saying. The doctor comes in, he's got his nurse and he's got a witness there, and they say, you are aware that we are transferring one embryo. Sometimes people want more than one embryo, but it can be unsafe. If you have multiples, they can split, all kind of things like that. And in my contract, I specifically asked not for selective reduction. So if you end up with 2 babies or more or whatever, however many embryos you want to implant, that's how many children that parent would have been taken care of, because I don't believe in killing a child because you have too much. That's just like earning $20 million on the lottery system and saying that, nope, it's too much money, I'm going to rip up 10 million of it. Like, to me, children are blessings. So I'm not with killing children or terminating a pregnancy because you're blessed with more than what you expected. That's just my own opinion. I don't judge anybody else who has done abortions or selective reductions. That's totally up to you. And I respect that, but that's just not something that I personally feel comfortable doing. And so, especially in this type of situation where you can control how many embryos you implant, right? So anyway, mine was a high grade embryo, and he or she looked super cute. They kind of show you, so they go in with this little tiny itty bitty tube. Literally, you don't even feel it. It goes into the uterus. They go bloop, and it just stops at the end of the uterus, or like kind of in the middle part. And then they take it out and they're like, okay, you're done. Just sit here for 5 to 10 minutes. I ended up sitting there for about 10 minutes. And they check on the ultrasound monitor that the embryo is stuck to the uterus. So you can see the little bleb. It looks like a little bean in there. And then after that, you're allowed to get up and pee, because remember, you drank all this water. So you're like, your bladder's about to burst. And so you get up, you use the bathroom. And then from then on, every reproductive endocrinologist has a different set of directions. Some say go on bed rest. Some say go on partial bed rest. Mine said, if you've stayed here 10 minutes, go back to business as usual, because that's what you would do if you were getting pregnant anyway. You would do the same things you've always done. Don't lift anything heavy. Don't do anything stressful or strenuous. And go by your contract. Obviously, I'm not going to drink any alcohol. I'm not going to, do anything that I wouldn't do if I knew I were pregnant, right? At this point, there's an embryo in there. You don't know if it's going to stick, but at this point, you know that it's in your body. So you do as much as you can to decrease your stress and make sure that you're eating healthy and resting, right? So after the embryo transfer, I drove right back up. Beautiful drive, no issues. I didn't have any stress, anything like that. And I went home, and I actually got home early. I had arranged for a babysitter to pick up my children, just in case I got back late, in terms of if I ran into traffic. You always have to have a plan B. Even though I headed out at like 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, you can never guarantee that you're going to make it back in town. And it was a 4.5 hour drive, maybe a little bit less than that, like 4 hours, 10 minutes, 4 hours, 15 minutes. But even still, I was going to give myself the time. And along the way, I have a story for y'all. So along the way, remember how I told you I drank all that water? Well, I didn't know that after this procedure, I was going to have to pee so often. And when I mean often, I mean every 10 minutes. I drank so much water that I couldn't even pee it all out at the doctor's office. So about 10 minutes after I left, I had to go to the bathroom again. So I stopped. I went back to that same place, JJ's Eatery or whatever it is, and used the bathroom there. And then I got some lunch. I got like a salad or something like that, something healthy, right? And then I drove onto the highway, and again, I had to go pee again. So I stopped at a rest stop, got gas, and I peed again. Then I was like, okay, I need to make it home. I can't stop every 10 minutes. So this time I got bold and went onto the highway and was driving. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make it 30 minutes. Well, let me tell you, when I got to like the 15-minute mark, I was so full of water that I had to pull over. I was like, I've got to pull over right now. And I could not find a place to pull over. There was no U-turn lane. There was no getting out of it. So anyway, I finally pulled over into like, I don't even know what it was. And I literally, I couldn't even get out of the car. I was like, I was like, I don't know what to do because I can't even move. I'm going to pee on myself if I move. So anyway, I had this big jug in the car. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this right here. I'm popping a squat in my car. So I'm like, here we go. We're going to do this. And I popped a squat and I overflowed the cup. I overflowed this thing. I was peeing and peeing and peeing. I'm like, man, when am I going to stop? And I never did. And it overflowed. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then, so listen, I ended up tossing the pee out in the grass or something like that, because I didn't want to drive and be bumping and the pee go flying everywhere in my car. I had to put down as much, I don't even know what I had in the car at the time, like my jacket. I think I had like a black hoodie. I had to go put that down underneath me. My whole pants was wet. Okay. And then I continued on my way. But even then, I was like, about half an hour later, because after I got out all that, I did feel a little bit better. Half an hour later, again, I had to go pee again. So I'm like, what am I going to do now? Because I have to go to the, like, I'm stopped at a rest stop. I'm hungry. I want to go eat something, but I'm wet. So I'm like, oh my gosh, it was the worst experience. But us surrogates, we have these type of stories. But long story short, I must have stopped a good 10 times before I came home that day. It was ridiculous. But anyway, I made it home. I rested because I got home maybe an hour and a half earlier than I had expected. And I was definitely ready to be home. And so I rested a little bit, and then I went and got my kids, and it was just a really chill day for me. So then, so I'll make a part 2 then. I'll make a part 2 after this video. So this is part 1 of the first month. And what I'll do is in my next part, I want to talk about the 2-week wait, when I started peeing on a stick. POAS is what we call it in the surrogacy world. When I started taking FRERs, first response, early response. I'll tell you all the lingo that we use, and I'll tell you about the testing, the 2-week wait, my beta tests, and when we got the heartbeat ultrasound. Okay, I'll see you in a little bit.